We've all had crazy childhood dreams, flying, breathing underwater, becoming something more. Most people grow out of it, but one man didn't, George F. Bond, and what he built almost got people killed. In the 1960s, the world was obsessed with space. It was the ultimate frontier, a grand stage for national pride and human ambition. Rockets tore through the sky. We aimed for the moon and dreamed of the stars. The future, everyone agreed, was up there. But while the world was looking up, one man, a Navy doctor named George F. Bond, was looking down, deep down, into the crushing, silent, and profoundly alien world of the deep ocean. He believed something truly radical, that humanity's next great leap wasn't into the vacuum of space, but into the immense pressure of the sea. He envisioned us not as visitors, but as inhabitants of this world, a place where every breath is manufactured, and every square inch of your body is squeezed by miles of water. Which on paper sounds like a great idea if you enjoy constant life-threatening stress. This wasn't a hunch, it was a hypothesis, and George Bond wasn't guessing. He was testing. Since 1957, inside the US Navy's Medical Research Laboratory, he studied something most people ignore, something the human body was never designed to withstand: extreme pressure. He wanted to know what it truly does to living tissue, not in theory, scribbled on a chalkboard, but in reality, the cold, hard, unforgiving truth of it. He was obsessed with a single, dangerous question: what are our absolute limits, and could they be pushed? He started small, with cautious, methodical steps. Then, the work escalated. Rats, goats, monkeys. One by one, they were locked inside hyperbaric chambers designed to mimic the crushing weight of the deep ocean. The lab, once a place of pure science, began to feel different. It stopped being just a lab and started becoming a very expensive and very quiet horror movie set. Each experiment was a descent into the unknown, with Bond as the unflinching director. Then the very air they breathed changed. The gas mix was altered, a precise cocktail of helium, oxygen, and nitrogen. With each test, the pressure increased, simulating a dive to 200 feet underwater, then deeper, 300 feet, 600, pushing far beyond what was thought survivable. Each turn of the valve was a step into uncharted territory, a gamble against biology itself. And then, something strange happened. The subjects didn't instantly die. They adapted. They survived for 14 continuous days under immense pressure. Then, they were brought back up, slowly, carefully. There was no catastrophic damage, no explosive end, just survival. And that was the moment everything changed. Because Bond realized something profound and deeply unsettling. The human body wasn't fragile. It was flexible. Too flexible. A machine capable of recalibrating itself for a world it was never meant to enter. And that discovery would change the future of underwater exploration forever. For decades, everyone thought the primary danger of diving was simply staying down too long. But Navy Dr. George Bond realized the real killer wasn't the depth but the journey. It was the constant cycle of going up, then down again. Each ascent and descent was a gamble with physics, forcing nitrogen into and out of the body's tissues. The body didn't like this violent change. It rebelled. So Bond proposed something that sounded like science fiction, a truly radical solution: saturation diving. The principle was deceptively simple. Once your body is fully saturated with a carefully controlled breathing gas, time stops mattering. The immense pressure of decompression is a one-time cost, whether you've been down for a day or an entire month. It was a paradigm shift that promised to turn minutes of bottom time into weeks. It sounded impossible, a flagrant defiance of the ocean's unforgiving rules, even dangerous. But the math worked on paper. The only way to know for sure was to test it, on people. Because to truly conquer this frontier, you couldn't just visit, you had to live there. By 1962, the Navy approved human trials. No more animals, now it was volunteers, sealed in chambers, 144 hours, no sunlight, no fresh air, no escape, just controlled atmosphere. The mix, oxygen, helium, nitrogen, they lived, they breathed, they survived, and when they came out, they were fine. That was the moment the idea stopped being theory and started becoming infrastructure. Fine in the scientific sense, not necessarily the "I want to do that again" sense. Bond wasn't alone. Jacques Cousteau was building underwater habitats. Edwin A. Link was experimenting with saturation systems. Even politics entered the equation. John F. Kennedy declared the ocean a new frontier, which meant one thing: the Cold War had a new battlefield, not space, the seafloor. So yes, humanity looked at the ocean and said, let's militarize it. July 20th, 1964, off Bermuda, a strange structure was lowered into the ocean. Not elegant, not advanced, more like something held together by ambition and optimism. 192 feet down. Then it stopped and settled. 12 hours later, humans entered it, with what I can only assume was a lot of "this is probably fine." 4 men, Robert Thompson, Lester Anderson, Robert A. Barth, Sanders Manning, 2 years of training. One mission, live underwater for 21 days. No precedent, no safety net, just pressure and hope, and probably a few second thoughts they didn't write down. The air wasn't normal, it was 80% helium, 16% nitrogen, 4% oxygen, and helium changed everything, not just breathing, speech. Their voices became high-pitched, unnatural, almost comical, only 25% understandable. So the Navy built a device, a helium speech descrambler, because even talking had become a technical problem. Imagine needing technology just to sound like a human being again. The ocean didn't just surround them, it fought them. Heat loss was extreme. Water pulled warmth from the body 25 times faster than air. Helium made it worse, 5 times more conductive. Even wetsuits failed, so the habitat had to be heated to 30 degrees constantly. And still, they felt cold, because apparently the ocean doesn't believe in comfort settings. Humidity never stopped rising, machines never stopped running. Pumps, scrubbers, air systems, everything depended on one fragile lifeline, a tether to the surface. If it failed, so did everything else. Breathing became work, every inhale heavier than the last. The mind starts to shift. After days underwater, something changed. Subtle at first, movement slowed, reactions dulled. Then psychologically, something deeper. They became more detached, less reactive, more distant, as if the ocean wasn't just surrounding them, it was rewriting them, which is not the kind of review you want from your workplace. Then nature intervened. A tropical storm formed, conditions worsened, and Sealab I was shut down early. But it didn't matter, because the experiment had already succeeded. Humans could live underwater. 1965, deeper, smarter, stranger, 205 feet underwater in California, nicknamed the Tilton Hilton, because nothing says cutting-edge science like giving it a hotel name. Because now it wasn't just survival, it was comfort. Hot showers, refrigeration, labs, even windows. But helium still ruled everything. The habitat had to stay at 30 degrees just to prevent hypothermia. And then things got surreal. A trained dolphin named Tuffy, used for deliveries, tools, messages, assistance, and somehow it worked, most of the time, which is honestly a better track record than some human systems. Then came Scott Carpenter, astronaut, explorer. He stayed underwater for 30 days, a record. At the end of the mission, the president called, Lyndon B. Johnson. But there was a problem, helium distortion. Carpenter's voice was unintelligible. A historic call, lost in translation. Probably the first presidential call ever interrupted by cartoon physics. Nothing was safe. Every dive carried risk. Gas imbalance meant death. Equipment failure meant drowning. Carpenter was even stung by a venomous fish. Even breathing felt unstable, and yet they kept going deeper. 1. Everything changed. Before deployment, 18 months delay, millions over budget, constant failures, already unstable. Then it was placed at 610 feet, 3 times deeper than before, and immediately it started leaking helium. Constantly, if pressure failed, it would flood. Instantly. 4 men went down. One of them, Barry L. Cannon. They were exhausted, overworked, some awake for 20 hours straight, using stimulants just to function, which is never a sentence you want associated with engineering. Then disaster struck. Cannon was found unconscious, floating. His breathing system failed. Official cause, carbon dioxide poisoning. But later, theories suggested something worse, electrocution. Nothing was ever fully confirmed. During recovery operations, someone attempted to sabotage air systems. Security was posted. A suspect identified. Never charged. Never explained. Just buried. After Cannon's death, Sealab was shut down. Completely recovered, scrapped, silenced. Sealab succeeded, but not in the way they wanted. Yes, humans can live underwater. Saturation diving works. Deep-sea habitation is possible. But also, small mistakes become fatal. Systems fail under pressure. The mind changes in isolation. Control is always temporary. Bond imagined underwater cities, ocean colonies, deep-sea industries, a second world beneath the waves. But today, we still don't live there, and maybe that says everything, because the deeper they went, the more the ocean reminded them of one thing. You don't conquer it, you survive it, if you're lucky. For more exciting historical dives, hit that like button, drop your comments, and subscribe to Dark Observer.